Imagine this, you wake up tomorrow and everything you've been pretending not to know about yourself, your flaws, your fears, your potential, is suddenly in front of you, raw and undeniable. 60 minutes of terrifying clarity. 60 minutes where there's nowhere to run, no distraction strong enough to shield you from the truth. That's what this is about. The most eye-opening 60 minutes of your life. And it's not going to be easy, but maybe, just maybe, that's exactly why it matters. Let me walk you through 6 truths that, if you stare them down, will shake the foundations of your life and maybe even rebuild them. You are not who you could be. That's not an insult, it's a fact. And somewhere deep inside, you already know it. There's this uncomfortable awareness buried under the distractions, the excuses, the daily routines that lull you into a sense of false security. You see flashes of it when you lie awake at night when your mind is too tired to pretend. You know that there's more in you, more strength, more potential, more capacity for greatness, but it remains untapped. Why? Because it's easier to live with unrealized potential than to face the brutal demands of actualizing it. The truth is this: the person you are today is a compromise. It's the result of years of negotiation between your desire for comfort and your fear of failure. And that negotiation has cost you. You've traded discipline for ease. You've allowed fear to masquerade as caution. You've let the voice of your potential, the whisper that says you could be something more, get drowned out by the noise of convenience. And every time you do, that ideal version of you fades just a little further away. This isn't just a motivational idea. It's a psychological reality. The self is not a fixed identity. It's a process. You're always becoming something. The tragedy is, for most people, it's not deliberate. You drift, you coast. You let the world shape you passively instead of stepping forward and confronting what you could be if only you were willing to pay the price. Because there is a price. Becoming that higher version of yourself means dying to who you are now. It means sacrifice. You'd have to give up your laziness, your procrastination, your cheap dopamine hits, and your carefully curated excuses. You'd have to set goals you're not sure you can reach, and then discipline yourself to pursue them anyway. You'd have to confront your past, admit your weaknesses, and take radical ownership of your life. That's terrifying. But do you know what's more terrifying? Waking up one day and realizing that you could have done something extraordinary and didn't. The thing about potential is that it doesn't last forever. It decays if you don't act on it. You don't get to be a sleeping giant your whole life. Eventually you're just asleep. And the world doesn't care about what you could have been. It only responds to what you are, what you do, and how consistently you show up in alignment with your highest values, even when it's hard. So stop pretending you don't know. Stop distracting yourself with the latest trends, the endless scrolling, the excuses disguised as self-care. Sit with the discomfort. Look at your life honestly. Ask yourself what you're avoiding. Because on the other side of that avoidance is the person you were meant to be. You are not who you could be, but you could be someone formidable. And if you take that seriously, really seriously, your entire life can begin to change. Comfort is killing your character. It's a slow death, and most people don't even notice it happening. That's what makes it so dangerous. You think you're just taking it easy, unwinding, relaxing, but what you're actually doing is sedating yourself, numbing yourself to the parts of your life that demand growth. And growth doesn't come wrapped in pillows. It comes through friction, failure, and deliberate struggle. We've built a society addicted to comfort. Food delivered to your door with a swipe. Entertainment available 24/7, validation in the form of likes, comments, and digital applause. Every discomfort has a shortcut, a workaround. But here's the catch. Every time you avoid discomfort, you rob yourself of the opportunity to grow stronger. You rob yourself of the pride that only comes from facing resistance and pushing through it. Your character is not forged in pleasure, it's forged in pain. Not meaningless suffering, but purposeful challenge, voluntary hardship, the kind that requires you to step outside of your safe, predictable routines and face the unknown. Think about it. Every person you admire, every person whose life you want to emulate, they've walked through fire. They've endured setbacks, criticism, loneliness, fatigue, but they didn't run from it. They chose to carry the weight, to confront the challenge, to do what was hard when it would have been so much easier to quit. That's where character is formed. When you choose comfort over growth, You trade your long-term strength for short-term ease. You weaken the muscle of your willpower. You train your mind to retreat instead of attack. You teach yourself that struggle is something to be avoided, not embraced. And then, when life inevitably hits you with real pain, loss, failure, betrayal, you're not prepared. You crumble because you've been training comfort, not resilience. What's worse is that comfort often disguises itself as self-care. We tell ourselves we're being kind to ourselves when we skip the gym, when we stay in bed, when we avoid the difficult conversation. But that's not self-care. It's self-sabotage, dressed up in cozy language. Real care is saying, I know this is hard, but we do hard things. Real care is refusing to let yourself stay small. And here's the truth, you were built for more than comfort. There's something deep in your biology that wants to struggle, to overcome, to earn the right to be proud of who you've become. That's why the most meaningful moments of your life, the ones that really shaped you, weren't easy. They were the ones where you were tested, where you pushed past your limits, where you didn't think you could go any further and then did. So stop protecting yourself from discomfort. Seek it out. Embrace the cold shower. Take the stairs. Have the hard conversation. Sit down and focus when every part of you wants to procrastinate. Every time you lean into discomfort, you build character. And every time you retreat, you let that character rot. Choose wisely, because comfort might feel good now, but it's costing you everything. Your words shape your world. Most people think language is just a tool to describe what's happening, but it's far more than that. Language creates reality. It directs your attention, frames your perception, and either carves out order or invites chaos. When you speak precisely, honestly, and courageously, you pull clarity from the fog. When you speak lazily, vaguely, or falsely, you invite confusion, resentment, and weakness. Your words are not trivial. They're foundational. Think about this. The quality of your life is directly tied to the quality of your conversations, especially the ones you have with yourself. What do you tell yourself when things go wrong, when you fail, when you're afraid? That inner dialogue, those silent sentences looping in your head, they either build you up or break you down. And it's not some abstract psychological idea, it's real. The person who tells themselves, I can face this, even if it's hard, lives a fundamentally different life than the one who says, I'm just not good enough, I can't handle it. And it goes beyond the inner voice. The way you speak to others also defines your relationships, your reputation, and the opportunities that open or close in your life. When you say what you mean, when your words align with your values, you become trustworthy. You become someone people can rely on. You develop authority, not by force, but by integrity. But when your words are manipulative, vague, or cowardly, people sense it. Even if they can't articulate it, they feel the dissonance. And over time, that erodes everything. Lying is one of the most corrosive things you can do to yourself. Every time you lie, especially about something important, you chip away at your own soul. You teach yourself that your voice doesn't matter, that reality can be bent if it's inconvenient, but the truth always finds a way back. It surfaces in stress, in anxiety, in guilt, in fractured relationships. You don't get away with it, not internally, and eventually you won't get away with it externally either. There's a reason ancient wisdom traditions treat speech as sacred. Words are sacred. You can tear someone down in a sentence or lift them up for life. You can speak truth into a situation and bring clarity where there was only confusion. Or you can stay silent when you know you should speak and allow the lie to grow. Refusing to speak the truth is also a form of deceit, and it's usually rooted in fear. But here's the thing. The more you speak the truth, the stronger you become. Even if it's awkward, even if it's unpopular, even if your voice shakes, you develop courage, clarity, and direction. You become the kind of person who knows where they stand. And that's rare. Most people avoid clarity because it demands responsibility. But clarity is power. It gives you the ability to act, to lead, to create. So, don't underestimate your words. Speak carefully. Speak truthfully. Speak bravely. Your life depends on it. Because the world you live in is in many ways built by the words you choose to say. You cannot rescue anyone until you rescue yourself. That sounds harsh, maybe even selfish, but it's one of the most important truths you'll ever hear. So many people walk around with a savior complex, trying to fix everyone else's problems, trying to carry people who are drowning, trying to offer wisdom, guidance, support, when their own lives are in shambles. Their relationships are toxic. Their habits are destructive. Their mindset is fractured. But they keep trying to be the hero for others, and it never works. Why? Because you can't pour from an empty cup, and pretending otherwise is not noble, it's naive. Let's get something straight. There's nothing wrong with wanting to help people. It's one of the most meaningful things you can do with your life. But help has to come from a place of stability and strength. If you're a mess, your efforts to rescue someone else become more about your own unresolved issues than their actual needs. That's not support. That's codependency. That's using someone else's pain as a distraction from your own. And deep down, you know it. You've got to get your own house in order first. Clean your room, like I've said before, not because it's about the room, but because it's a microcosm of your inner world. If your environment is chaotic, your mind is likely in disarray too. If you can't follow through on your own commitments, how can you expect others to trust you? If you're constantly lying to yourself, you'll end up lying to them too. Maybe not intentionally, but it happens. You end up giving bad advice, setting a bad example, and becoming a burden rather than a guide. Personal responsibility isn't just about you. It's the prerequisite for being of real use to others. When you've faced your own demons, when you've built discipline, when you've suffered and come out stronger, then you have something to offer. Then your words carry weight. Then you can stand next to someone who's struggling and say, I've been there, let me show you how I got out. And here's the paradox. When you take care of yourself properly, physically, emotionally, spiritually, it doesn't make you less compassionate. It makes you more compassionate. Because now you're not helping out of guilt or desperation or a need to be needed. You're helping from abundance, from strength, from clarity. You don't get pulled into the chaos, you bring order to it. Fixing yourself is a brutal, often lonely process. It means confronting hard truths, breaking old habits, letting go of excuses, and choosing discipline over comfort day after day. But it's worth it, because the version of you that emerges from that process is someone people can actually lean on. Someone with a spine. Someone who can look chaos in the eye and not flinch. So stop trying to save everyone else before you've saved yourself. That's not humility, it's arrogance disguised as virtue. Do the hard work, rescue yourself first, then go back and help others from a place of truth, not delusion. That's how real transformation begins. Discipline is the highest form of freedom. That's a statement most people instinctively resist because we've been sold a lie about what freedom really is. We think it's about doing whatever we want, whenever we want, without consequence or constraint. We associate freedom with spontaneity, comfort, and ease. But that's not freedom. That's indulgence. And indulgence is a trap that feels good in the moment, but eventually leaves you weak, directionless, and enslaved to your impulses. Real freedom, the kind that leads to a meaningful, powerful life, only emerges when you learn to master yourself. And that means discipline, the ability to delay gratification, the willingness to do the hard thing even when you don't feel like it, the daily decision to stick to what you said you would do long after the mood in which you made the promise has passed. That's freedom. Because then you're not a slave to your emotions, your cravings, or your laziness. You are in control. And here's the uncomfortable truth. You're always serving something. You don't get to opt out. You're either serving your higher self or you're serving your lower one. You're either choosing structure or you're falling into chaos. The person who skips discipline in the name of freedom always ends up trapped in bad habits, weak relationships, a scattered mind, and an empty soul. You want freedom? Build discipline. Discipline gives you options. It gives you the ability to say no to what's beneath you and yes to what actually matters. When you train yourself to rise early, to work hard, to keep your body strong, to honor your commitments, you start to build a kind of internal capital. You become reliable to yourself and to others, and that creates opportunity. People notice. You start to be trusted with more. You start to trust yourself more. That's the seed of real autonomy. But make no mistake, discipline is brutal. It requires you to say no to things that feel good. It demands you push through fatigue, boredom, and discomfort. It doesn't offer quick rewards. but it builds something much more valuable than temporary pleasure. It builds character. It builds strength. It builds a deep, unshakable sense of confidence that only comes from having earned your own respect. People look for hacks, shortcuts, secret tricks to success. But the truth is simple. Discipline is the foundation of everything. You can have all the talent in the world, all the resources, all the dreams, but without discipline, it's worthless. It's potential with no execution, desire with no structure, fire with no direction. So start small, set one rule for yourself and keep it. Don't break your own word. Build a system, show up every day, stack the small wins, and over time, watch yourself become someone you're proud of. That's the reward of discipline. Not just the external success, but the internal transformation, the kind of freedom that can't be taken from you because it was built, earned, and owned by you. Meaning is responsibility voluntarily taken. That might not sound glamorous. It doesn't sparkle like the words people chase today: happiness, success, pleasure, ease. But meaning is deeper, it's heavier. It's the kind of thing that roots you to the ground when everything else feels like it's spinning out of control. And the gateway to that kind of meaning is responsibility. Not the kind that's forced on you, but the kind you choose. The kind you carry because it's worth carrying. There's a reason people feel empty even when they've achieved comfort. You've got your basic needs met, your entertainment on demand, your convenience is stacked in every corner of your life, and yet there's this persistent, gnawing sense of something missing. That something is meaning. And meaning only emerges when you voluntarily shoulder a burden, when you decide to pick up the part of the chaos around you and bring it into order. The heaviest responsibilities are often the ones that bring the deepest sense of purpose. Taking care of your family, building something that matters, speaking the truth in a room full of silence, leading with integrity, becoming the kind of person others can rely on when things fall apart. These aren't light tasks, but they make you feel alive. Why? Because they connect you to something larger than yourself. They make your suffering count for something. They transform your pain into purpose. That's the difference between a meaningful life and an easy one. A life built around comfort shrinks your soul. It makes you anxious, aimless, fragile. But a life built around responsibility expands you. It demands that you grow. It calls out the strongest, most competent version of you, and here's the key: it's voluntary. No one can force you into meaning. You have to choose it. That's what gives it power. You can run from responsibility. A lot of people do. They avoid commitment, avoid leadership, avoid the difficult conversations and the hard paths. They float, they blame, they wait for someone else to take charge. But that path leads to bitterness, to resentment, to a life that feels hollow because you never stepped up to become the person you knew you could be. Responsibility transforms you. When you say, "This is mine to handle," even when it's hard, something shifts inside you. You become less concerned with how you feel and more focused on what needs to be done. You start to see yourself not just as a consumer of life, but as a contributor to it. And ironically, the more responsibility you take on, the more freedom you gain. Because now, you're not tossed around by external circumstances. You're anchored, you have a why. So if you feel lost, if your life feels like it's missing something essential, stop chasing pleasure and start asking, what weight can I carry that actually matters? Take it on willingly, shoulder it with pride. That's where the path begins. And the further you walk it, the more meaning reveals itself, not as a flash of insight, but as the deep satisfaction of becoming someone who matters. So now you've seen it. The most eye-opening 60 minutes of your life weren't about entertainment, weren't about comfort, and sure as hell weren't about surface-level motivation. They were about truth, the raw, unfiltered kind that makes you uncomfortable, the kind that stares you in the face and says you are capable of more and you know it. You are not who you could be. Comfort is costing you your future. Your words create the very world you walk in. You cannot save anyone until you've put your own chaos in order. Discipline is the true path to freedom. And meaning, that elusive thing everyone's searching for, is found the moment you decide to carry the heaviest load you can bear. So now the question becomes, what are you going to do with this? Because insight without action is just another form of procrastination. Don't let this be just another spark that fades by morning. Let it be the strike that lights the fire. Step forward. Imperfect, unsure, maybe afraid, but step. Because the path is not hidden. It's right in front of you. It's been there the whole time. And it's waiting for you to walk it.